In a city where truth is often a costume worn only when convenient, death has always been treated as the ultimate full stop, the one event that silences suspicion and ends questions. That is why Luna Nozawa's return feels less like a miracle and more like a violation of reality itself. She was mourned, archived, spoken of in the past tense, folded neatly into memory at a time when the Forrester family was already stretched thin by internal fractures and external threats. Her reappearance does not arrive gently. It detonates, tearing through the fragile calm Steffi and Finn have been desperately trying to preserve, reopening wounds that never fully healed and creating new ones that bleed in unpredictable directions. For Steffi, the shock is immediate and visceral. Luna is not just a name resurrected from the dead. She is a reminder of fear, chaos, and the kind of danger that leaves residue long after it is supposedly gone. Seeing Luna alive forces Steffi to confront the unsettling realization that closure was an illusion. That the chapter she believed had ended was merely paused. The timing could not be worse. Her marriage to Finn is already strained by silence, distance, and unresolved tension, and Forrester Creations is navigating a delicate balance between legacy and survival. Luna's return feels like an intrusion designed to exploit every weakness at once. Finn's reaction is quieter but no less intense. As a doctor, he understands survival against impossible odds, yet this feels different. Luna does not look like someone who narrowly escaped death. She looks like someone who planned her disappearance with precision. When she explains that she faked her death to escape a criminal organization or a shadowy enemy from her past, Finn listens carefully, trained to notice inconsistencies, pauses, the subtle tells that reveal when a story is being shaped rather than remembered. Her explanation carries the surface logic of fear, but beneath it lie gaps that refuse to align. The details do not settle. They hover, unresolved, demanding scrutiny. Luna positions herself as a survivor. Someone who did what she had to do to stay alive in a world that offered her no protection. She speaks of constant danger, of eyes watching her, of threats that made disappearance the only option. Yet the more she talks, the more Steffi senses calculation beneath the vulnerability. Luna knows when to appear fragile and when to assert confidence. She understands how to evoke sympathy without fully surrendering control of the narrative. Steffi has seen this before, in enemies who wore victimhood as camouflage, and the familiarity chills her. Despite their doubts, Luna's presence begins to weave itself into the fabric of Forrester Creations with unsettling ease. She re-enters social and professional spaces not as an intruder, but as someone who belongs. Someone whose past association grants her immediate relevance. She listens carefully, offering insights that seem helpful, aligning herself with whichever perspective dominates the room at any given moment. Her ability to adapt is impressive, almost admirable, if not for the growing sense that it is deliberate. Steffi and Finn watch as Luna subtly positions herself within existing tensions. Never overtly causing conflict, but amplifying it just enough to destabilize trust. The strain on Steffi and Finn's marriage intensifies as Luna's influence grows. Secrets begin to multiply, not because Steffi and Finn are hiding things from each other, but because Luna's presence forces constant calculation. Every conversation feels potentially compromised, every decision shadowed by the question of who might be listening or manipulating outcomes behind the scenes. The distance that once stemmed from unspoken pain now deepens under the weight of shared suspicion. Even moments of unity are tinged with urgency, as though they are racing against a threat that refuses to reveal its full shape. Luna proves particularly adept at exploiting the long-standing fault lines between the Forrester and Logan families. She frames her comments as observations rather than accusations, presenting herself as an outsider merely pointing out patterns others refuse to acknowledge. A carefully placed remark here, a sympathetic nod there, and soon disagreements harden into resentment. She encourages competition where collaboration once existed, subtly questioning motives and loyalties. The brilliance of her strategy lies in its deniability. Nothing she says can be traced directly back to malice, yet the cumulative effect is unmistakable. As Forrester Creations becomes increasingly fractured, the stakes escalate beyond personal relationships. Rumors begin to circulate, whispers of impropriety, questions about leadership stability, hints that the company's internal discord might reflect deeper ethical failings. Luna never spreads these rumors directly. Instead, she positions herself as the concerned observer, the one who notices but does not judge, who warns without accusing. Her influence becomes a slow poison, eroding trust from within while maintaining a veneer of concern. The situation grows more dangerous when a figure from Luna's past emerges. A presence that confirms Steffi and Finn's worst fears. This individual does not arrive loudly or with threats, but their existence alone complicates everything. They carry knowledge that contradicts Luna's version of events, suggesting that her disappearance was not merely an act of survival but part of a larger scheme. The implication is chilling. Luna may not have been running from danger at all, but orchestrating it. Evidence begins to surface, fragmented at first, then increasingly damning. Financial anomalies, unexplained access to sensitive information, connections to entities that have long sought to undermine Forrester Creations. Each discovery peels back another layer of Luna's carefully constructed persona, revealing intent where innocence once stood. Steffi feels a grim sense of validation mixed with dread. Being right does not bring relief when the truth is this destructive. For Finn, the unraveling of Luna's deception becomes deeply personal. He recognizes how easily trust can be weaponized, how empathy can be manipulated into access. He reflects on his own silence with Steffi, the secrets that grew not from betrayal but from fear of confrontation, and sees how Luna exploited that same vulnerability. The realization strengthens his resolve. This time, he refuses to remain passive. Protecting his family and the integrity of Forrester Creations demands action, even if that action risks further upheaval. Together, Steffi and Finn begin to move strategically, aligning themselves not only with each other but with those within the company who still value transparency over power plays. They gather proof carefully, understanding that exposing Luna prematurely could trigger retaliation. The process is exhausting, requiring patience at a time when emotions are already stretched thin. Yet working together restores something that had been slipping away between them. Shared purpose becomes a bridge back to intimacy, reminding them that partnership is forged not only in love, but in mutual defense. As the evidence reaches a critical mass, Luna's mask begins to crack. The survivor narrative collapses under scrutiny, revealing a web of manipulation far more elaborate than anyone anticipated. She was not merely escaping a threat. She was leveraging it, using fear as currency to gain access, influence, and control. Her plan was never small. It was designed to destabilize Forrester Creations from the inside, to turn its greatest strength, its interconnected relationships, into its most significant vulnerability. The confrontation, when it finally comes, is not explosive. It is precise, devastating in its calm. Luna is faced with the truth she worked so hard to obscure. Her denials unraveling under the weight of undeniable proof. Forrester Creations stands on the brink of reputational collapse. Yet the exposure of Luna's scheme becomes its salvation. Transparency, long delayed, reasserts itself as the only viable path forward. In the aftermath, the damage is undeniable. Trust has been shaken, alliances tested, and the illusion of safety shattered. Yet Steffi and Finn emerge with a renewed understanding of what it means to protect what they love. Their marriage, strained nearly to breaking, finds strength in the knowledge that silence is no longer an option. They have learned that vigilance must coexist with compassion, that unity requires courage as much as affection. Luna's return, once a symbol of unresolved fear, becomes a catalyst for reckoning. It exposes not only her deception, but the vulnerabilities that allowed it to thrive. Forrester Creations survives, not because it was untouched, but because it confronted the truth before the damage became irreversible. And Steffi and Finn, standing together amid the aftermath, understand that love is not defined by the absence of threat, but by the willingness to face it side by side. In a world where death can be staged and loyalty manipulated, survival depends not on certainty, but on clarity. The truth, once revealed, does not restore what was lost, but it offers something far more valuable, the chance to rebuild on solid ground. No longer blinded by illusions that nearly destroyed everything they fought to protect, the exposure of Luna's scheme does not bring the clean relief Steffi and Finn once imagined. Truth, when it finally surfaces, has a way of rearranging the landscape rather than restoring it. In the days that follow, Forrester Creations operates under a strange, suspended tension, as if the building itself is holding its breath. Meetings resume, decisions are made, designs move forward, yet beneath the surface everything feels provisional. Trust has not vanished, but it has been bruised, and bruises ache long after the blow that caused them has been identified. Steffi feels this acutely as she walks through familiar corridors that now seem altered by the knowledge of how close everything came to collapse. Luna's disappearance after her exposure only deepens the unease. She leaves no dramatic farewell, no public reckoning, no visible remorse. She simply vanishes again, this time not as a victim presumed dead, but as a confirmed manipulator whose absence raises more questions than answers. The mystery figure tied to her past remains frustratingly out of reach. A shadow that refuses to resolve into something concrete. For Steffi, the unresolved nature of this threat becomes a constant hum at the back of her mind. A reminder that danger does not always announce when it has truly passed. Finn senses the shift in her almost immediately. Though they stand together in the aftermath, united in purpose and relief, he can tell that Steffi's vigilance has sharpened rather than softened. The ordeal has stripped away any remaining illusion that safety is permanent. She has learned, once again, that threats often arrive wearing familiar faces, and that trust must be earned continuously rather than assumed. Finn understands this instinctively, yet he also fears the cost of living permanently on guard. He worries about what this means not just for their marriage, but for the emotional environment in which their family exists. As investigations continue quietly behind the scenes, evidence emerges that Luna's plan extended further than initially believed. Financial records suggest that her manipulation was designed to unfold in phases, each one destabilizing a different aspect of the company before the final blow. Though the core damage was prevented, smaller fissures remain, cracks in relationships that cannot be repaired with a single apology or explanation. Some within the Forrester and Logan families feel exposed, embarrassed by how easily they were influenced. Others feel betrayed not by Luna, but by the realization that they doubted one another so readily. Steffi takes it upon herself to address these fractures directly, understanding that silence now would be as destructive as Luna's manipulation ever was. She speaks with clarity and restraint, not to assign blame, but to acknowledge vulnerability. In doing so, she begins the slow process of reclaiming leadership not through authority, but through accountability. The effort costs her more than she lets on. Each conversation forces her to relive the near miss, the moment when everything she built almost unraveled because trust was taken for granted. Finn watches her navigate this terrain with a mixture of admiration and concern. He recognizes the strength in her resolve, but he also sees the toll it takes. The experience with Luna has not merely threatened their marriage, it has reshaped Steffi's relationship with the world. She is more guarded now, less willing to believe that good intentions are enough. Finn fears that if he does not reach her soon, if he does not reclaim the emotional closeness they once shared, the distance created by survival mode will become permanent. Their private moments grow heavier with unspoken thoughts, though they work together seamlessly to protect the family and the company. Intimacy remains elusive. Finn senses that Steffi is still carrying guilt, not just for what Luna did, but for the strain it placed on their marriage. She worries that her secrecy, her instinct to handle threats alone, contributed to the fracture between them. The irony is painful. In trying to protect Finn, she may have pushed him further away. The unresolved presence of the mysterious figure from Luna's past becomes the catalyst that finally forces deeper conversation. New information surfaces suggesting that this person did not simply recruit Luna, but continues to operate within the same network, adapting strategies rather than abandoning them. The implication is clear. Luna may have been exposed, but the machinery that enabled her deception is still intact. For Steffi, this realization confirms her fear that vigilance must be ongoing. For Finn, it underscores the need for unity beyond strategy. When Finn finally confronts Steffi about the emotional distance between them, the moment is not explosive. It is quiet, raw, and exhausting in its honesty. He does not accuse her of betrayal or deception. Instead, he speaks of absence, of how silence nearly hollowed out the foundation of their marriage. He admits his own failures, his choice to remain quiet when he should have spoken, his belief that patience would preserve peace. The confession is not a demand for reassurance, but an invitation to rebuild. Steffi listens, and for the first time in weeks, she allows herself to lower the defenses she has constructed. She admits that Luna's return shattered her sense of control, that it forced her back into a mindset where survival eclipses connection. She confesses that she did not pull away because she stopped loving Finn, but because she feared that letting him in would make him vulnerable to the same dangers she has spent her life trying to outrun. The admission is painful, but it is also liberating. For the first time since Luna reappeared, the truth between them is complete. This shared vulnerability becomes the turning point. They do not pretend that everything is suddenly fixed. Trust, once strained, requires time to heal. But they begin to understand that protection does not mean isolation, and strength does not require solitude. Finn recommits himself not just to defending his family, but to remaining emotionally present even when fear urges retreat. Steffi, in turn, begins to accept that partnership means sharing the burden, not bearing it alone. Meanwhile, Forrester Creations emerges cautiously from the shadow of scandal. Publicly, the company projects stability, innovation, and unity. Privately, systems are reinforced, safeguards tightened, and assumptions questioned. The legacy of Luna's deception becomes a lesson etched into corporate memory. A reminder that internal vigilance is as crucial as external defense. The family learns, painfully, that the greatest threats are often invited in through compassion untempered by scrutiny. Yet even as balance is restored, an undercurrent of uncertainty remains. Somewhere beyond their immediate reach, the forces that once backed Luna are recalibrating. Steffi senses it in the subtle shifts of industry pressure. In the way competitors seem unusually informed, unusually confident. Finn senses it in his own unease, the awareness that survival does not guarantee closure. Together, they prepare for a future that may demand vigilance rather than peace. The story does not end with triumph, but with resilience. Steffi and Finn stand stronger not because they defeated a single enemy, but because they learned to face uncertainty together. Luna's return, once a threat poised to destroy everything they love, becomes a crucible that forges a deeper understanding of trust, courage, and partnership. The danger has not vanished. It has merely changed shape. And this time, Steffi and Finn are no longer facing it alone. In the world they inhabit, where deception can masquerade as survival and loyalty can be weaponized, clarity becomes the rarest form of safety. The future of Forrester Creations remains uncertain, but its heart endures. And as Steffi and Finn move forward, hand in hand, they do so with open eyes, aware that love is not defined by the absence of threat, but by the willingness to confront it together, again and again, no matter what form it takes.